Ladies, what do you think?
It's gorgeous.
It looks like a beautiful painting.
It's gorgeous.
It is not. This is a Tiffany mosaic. It's made of glass. Why don't you come on up and you can check this out. Because it's like each one of these little pieces of glass is almost an artwork unto itself. This is a trademark of Tiffany's called Favril glass. And if you look up close, you can just see how many different colors are in each and every one of these different pieces. So this was installed in 1911. It was commissioned by the family of Judge Oliver Prescott, who was a very famous man in New Bedford at the time. And this is the legacy that his children left for him, for us to enjoy in his name and his wife. It's about 200 square feet. It's one of the largest Tiffany mosaics in the country. But if you can see the beautiful angel up there watching over what we call the pilgrim or the seeker. The actual name of this is Thy Kingdom Come. But then that was taken from a hymn originally. But we've never called it that. We've always called it the seeker or the wanderer or the pilgrim. But it's quite a striking piece of art, and we are really lucky to have this treasure. Our other treasure, if you turn around, is that Flentrop organ right there, and that was built by Dirk Flentrop, installed in 1969 when we did a big renovation here in the sanctuary. Dirk Flentrop was from Holland. He made reproduction instruments from the 18th and 19th century, so this is a tracker organ just like the one that Bach would have composed on, for instance. And it sounds amazing. We still do play it. Randy Fayen, our music director, has been here for almost 30 years. We sent him to school to be able to play a tracker organ. And it sounds amazing. Those high notes they're like tiny little penny whistles. And the low notes sound like whales coming up out of the ocean. It's quite spectacular. So we do use it every Sunday, and we're happy to have Randy as our music director because he's very talented. So we're really lucky. The other great treasure that we have are our footstools, and we've got a few of them up here. So they're not kneelers, they are footstools to keep your feet off the cold floor. And these are created, here, pick one up. These are created over the course of about 25 years by about 20 plus women. And there are over 300 of them in this church. They are individual works of art. We are hoping to get work with UMass Dartmouth to help get some interns here that are into historical preservation, taking classes in historical preservation, to hopefully document them for us, take pictures of each one and sort of go over what style it is. And on the back of each one, there is usually a name you can find somewhere, and somebody along the way went in and put what row it was in. Fanny Johnson, fine wool crewel is the style, and this one is 1967. And the interesting thing is, over the course of the time when these were being made, if you turn some over, you'll see the early ones will say, Mrs. David Thorne, as opposed to just Edna Thorne. Right. And that sort of change that happened as feminism was taking over here in the United States. And they said, well, I don't need to be Mrs. anybody. I can use my own name. So they're all different styles. There's Bargello, there's needlework, there's crewel. And one lady, Julia Daly, is the one that helped restore all the bases, and they had found those in a room in this church and said, well, let's do this project. And it took them a couple of decades, but they got it done. And they're just amazing. I love walking through here and just picking them up and looking at the back and going, If you look at our original seating plan, which we still have, it reads like a phone book of New Bedford, because all the names of all the streets that you recognize, they all came to this church, and we're sitting here. Lots of whaling captains. We call this the church that whaling built, because a lot of whaling money was put into this. Over 40 tons of granite was what we used to build it, and it cost a little over $40,000, which was paid for by that first sale of the pews, paid for this whole building outright. So we didn't have any money that we owed on it. And the expensive seats were in the middle there. The cheap seats were all the way at the back and all the way at the front. So people would deed their pews to their kids sometimes, you know. And there's one pew in the center. As we're walking out, I'll show you, that was for the Roach family. And the Roaches were a very big family here. So they had the partition in the middle cut so that they didn't have to enter from two different sides. They could just come in down the center aisle, and everybody could pile in all the way down to the end. And when John Bullard, who's a member here, when he comes to church, he's still in the Roach family. He still sits in the family pew, which is pretty neat. Ralph Waldo Emerson actually served our congregation, not in this church, just the prior church. This was still being built. I think it was 1836 to 37 maybe, or 35 to 36. So he was the cousin of Orville Dewey, who was our minister at the time. And Orville Dewey took a sabbatical for 6 months, and Emerson filled in as the minister, which is something that very few people know, that Ralph Waldo Emerson served in a church in New Bedford.